For the online people, you're going to have to, I just, excuse me, turned it on. So while I'm hooking up the tablet, you'll just have to bear with us while we run through this process. Pretty complicated process, but it's well worth doing. Come back over here. Click on this again. Click on yes. Come back over here again. Click on this again. And who knows why it does that? Oh, what am I doing? Pass out the attendance form? What is that? I don't know what's going on. Didn't I send an email for Wednesday that said read those pages? Only 66% of you read the pages. You go, I'm sick and tired of logic. I've had all I can take of it. Aha! And it looks like we're in business. So let's pray. Father, thank you for this time we have together. I ask your blessing on these students as we work through this practice test. Help them to understand what they need to know to be well prepared for the test on Monday, and help them to get sufficient practice this weekend to do well on the test on Monday. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Let's see. Yeah. There it is. If you want more practice with logic and or some helpful tables, Google logic and sets. C-E-N-G-A-G-E. Okay, let's scroll back to the first. Wow. This is just a practice test. Oh, because we're doing all the problems. That's what happens. Question 1. Which are statements? We're on page 175, page 175. Which are statements? And we're not talking about English statements here, we're talking about mathematical statements. And page 107 says, a statement is true or false, but not both. So, have you circled which ones are statements? Is A a statement, green apples taste good? Yes or no? No. You say, well, it is too. I just said green apples taste good. Okay, does everyone here agree that green apples taste good? How many think green apples taste good? How many think they don't? Okay, see, we don't have a true or false answer. There's too much a difference of opinion. It has to be something that we all agree to. So A is not a logical statement, a mathematical statement. What about B? 1991 was a leap year. Yeah. Is that a statement? Okay, was 91 a leap year? No. See, I don't care whether it was or not. It's either yes or no, so that makes B a statement. Everybody follow that? You don't say it's not a statement because it's false. It's a statement because you can determine whether it's true or false. What about C?
That's a statement.
That's a statement. No fish can live without water. You either say yes or no. D, some birds cannot fly. Is that a statement?
Yes.
Yes. E, if it rains today, my lawn will get wet. Yes. F, can anyone answer this question? You go, what question?
That one.
So it's like, no, that's not a statement. Everybody follow what we mean by a statement? Question 2. Write each statement in symbolic form. 2A. Now look what I've done with 2A. Can you tell what I've written up here? I put if, and then blah, 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 then blah, 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 blah. And then above this gobbledygook, I put a D, and above this gobbledygook, I put a P. Has anyone figured out what I'm doing when I look at problem 2 on page 175, 2A? I'm supposed to write each statement in symbolic form. So what are the symbolic forms I have available? If and then. So if and then are symbolic forms. And does it tell me what to call this stuff here? The number of a year is divisible by 4. D, so I call that D. And I call the other one P because they said to. So now what do I write out here?
If D, then P.
If D, then P. Everybody follow that? That's what it means to put it in symbolic language. And does it help to just bunch all those letters together and call them that letter? Because you're looking at the math symbolic language, if and then. 2B, where's the math symbolic word? But. Everybody see that? What's the symbol, the mathematic symbol for but?
And.
What?
And.
I didn't hear it.
And.
And. So we put an and out here. And then what goes on both sides of the and? B and M. Everybody follow that? You say,
Maybe not M because of how you.
oh, you make a mistake, you'll miss it. Not M. C, if and only if. Anyone know the mathematical symbol for if and only if?
It's the two.
It's the line with arrows on both ends. There it is right there. Let's write it. If and only if. And what are the letters we're using? E and M. Everybody follow that? And see, on the test, it'll have a whole bunch of choices. And have you figured this out? One of the choices that'll be wrong will look right. So just trust your heart and pick the cute ones and see what kind of score you get on the test. Probably not a good idea. D, or. What's the symbol for or? A little V, or a big V. And what goes on both sides? S and F. Any questions about 2? And of course the last one, it doesn't have any connectives there, so it just says, so the answer is just not S, because that's all it said. So they just put not S. There won't be one like E on the test, I don't think. The ones on the test will look more like A, B, C, and D. Ready for 3? What does 3 tell us? See how you want to write down what they're giving you? G is H-I-A-G and S is H-I-A-S. G is he's a gentleman. S is he's a scholar. Write the following in words. Now, what does this say? Can you read what I just underlined there?
He is a gentleman and he is a scholar.
That says he's a gentleman and he's a scholar. What happens when you put this in front of it?
Negates it.
It is not the case that what? He is a gentleman and he is a scholar. Everybody follow that? But now, what's the negation of not parentheses G and S? Does anyone have that in your notes? Do you have a section where it's how to negate things? That's what's cool about that website I told you about. It has a whole chart on negating stuff. What's the negation of G and S? Not G or not S. Do you remember that? Do you have that in your notes? Okay. So what's another way to say this? This is one way to say it. What's another way to say it?
He is not a gentleman and he is not a scholar.
He is not a gentleman or he is not a scholar.
If I were to write that neither nor, would that be the same thing? Or would that
Okay, now here's the thing. Are those two statements equivalent? Yes, they are. But which one will be on the test as a choice? It'll probably be this first one. But if it was the second one, you would know to do that, wouldn't you? Because there's two things going on here. One is we're negating something, but then, and that's what that website I told you to go to, that could be helpful. One is you negate something, and the other one is what statements are equivalent to that negation. Okay, so now how do you write this one in words? He is what? Is not a gentleman and what? He is a scholar. Now, what's another word for and? So now, can you see where, if I said, he's not a gentleman and he's a scholar, can you see where normally that would sound like in everyday English, he's not a gentleman, but he is a scholar? So if on the answer key, on the test, if you said, well, this translates as he's not a scholar and he's a gentleman, if you saw the word, if you saw the choice, he's not a gentleman, but he is a scholar, would that be a correct choice? Because and, the and symbol, and is the symbol for but. Remember we gave you those words? Remember early on, first part of the book, gave you all these words that are used to translate and? So keep that list of words handy so when you're doing this, you can look at the choices on the test and see what to do next. Number 4. Write the negation of each statement. Now, how do I negate or? You got your negation chart there? How do you negate or? And what goes on both sides?
Negatives of your opinion?
Not and not. Agreed? So how do I, now see it says write the negation. Do they want it in words or symbols? Do they give me symbols for number 4? Now if I had symbols, they don't give them to me, but if I made some up and I called this No one's asking for this stuff. What is this crazy thing doing? Am I touching some buttons here? Obviously. Hitting something here that I shouldn't be. See, I could say, okay, I will go to the beach. Or, what's the other one? 4A? Or to the movies. So to negate that, it would be not beach and not movies. You follow me? Then I put that in words. I will what? Not go to the beach and I will not go to the movies. Okay? Now the next one is and. How do I negate and? Or. So I put or, and then what do I do? Negate this one and negate this one. You follow that? So how would you put that in words for 4B? I will not stay in my room, or I will not do my homework. You follow that? 4C. Pluto is not a planet. So if we said P and put a not in front of it, how would you negate that? It would just be P, wouldn't it? So how would you say that? Pluto is a planet. So are we confused yet? Or are we all still on track saying, so far, I'm going to pass this test with flying colors?
You haven't even seen the other page yet.
And see, here's what will happen. You say, okay, I understand this stuff. I know what to do. How could I miss it? The choices he gives you will mess with your head. Didn't you find that out on the last test? Those choices mess with you. That's why I have you take multiple choice tests, because down the road when you demonstrate your proficiency in math, it's going to be with a multiple choice test. So you need to learn how to take multiple choice tests. Write the negation of each statement. What does this say? What does 5A say?
All cats are felines.
All cats are felines. What's the negation of all cats are felines?
Some.
Now, that would be true, but there's a formula in the book for negating.
Some.
You negate all with
Some.
Cats are not.
But what if he has the answer on the test and one of them is some and one of them is none? Which one do you choose?
Okay, if you say all are, have you negated it by saying none are? You've contradicted it, but what's the negation? Some are not. For all are, all you have to do, see, if somebody says, all scholars agree, and I'm going, no, all scholars do not agree. You see how now we just got into an argument. But if you say all scholars agree, then I say, I know some scholars who don't agree. See how that gives me the higher ground in terms of the logical discussion? So that's why the negation of all is some. I don't have to go clear over to none. What about some 5B? Some dogs are well trained. What's the negation of some? None? No dog is well trained.
I thought all and some negated each other.
Some dogs are well trained.
No, I thought all and some negated each other.
All and some, you were thinking all and some go together?
They negate
Well, let's see,
each
what
other.
page is that on? Page 113. Page 113. Turn to page 113 and write that down. To negate all are, some are not. To negate some are, none. None are. And to negate none, 5C, no dog is afraid of a mouse. What's the negation of that? Some dogs are afraid of mice.
I just don't understand why all and none don't negate each other.
Okay, now to say none are is the same as, is equivalent to saying all are not. Agreed?
Yeah.
Okay, so to say none are is equivalent to all are not.
Yeah.
But to negate some, I say none.
Okay.
Even though that's equivalent. You say, so if some dogs are well trained, then you could say, well, all dogs are not well trained.
Okay.
Because if none are well trained, then that's equivalent to all are not well trained. But when you look at the chart in logic for how do you negate something, this is the technical way of negating. This is the formal way of negating.
Okay.
Even though that negation is equivalent to something else. And that website has a nice little chart that shows negations and shows equivalences, and it kind of lets you, it puts them all right there in front of you to look at it, which I think might help with some of you as you wrestle with this stuff. And really part of it is you say, you know, it's not, if this is the first time I've seen this stuff, it's not going to all just stick with me. I just have to write notes and tell myself, when you're thinking this, write this. You know, that make it, just write yourself notes to say, check your thinking here, so you're doing the right kind of thing to get the right answer. Number 6. Write the negation of each statement. Now I'm negating an if-then statement. Do you have in your notes how to negate an if-then statement? To negate, let me put it up here. To negate, what are we going to do? If P, then Q, to negate it. What do you write? You have that in your notes?
P and not Q.
P and not Q. So put that down. That's how you negate if P then Q. So now we go back. If JDNS then HWFTC. So what do I do to negate it? JDNS, and then what do I write? And not HWFTC. Everybody see what I've done? I'm using this pattern for negating if then. And how would I read that? If Joey does not study, or Joey does not study, and he does not fail the course. That's the negation of that if then. Let's do another one. If SSH, then this. So how do I negate it? I go SSH and not SWMAAINTC. And what does that say in words? Sally studied hard. Sally studies hard and she does not make an A in the course. You go, well, that's not fair. Well, that's the negation of this. If she studies hard, then she will make an A in the course. That's negating that statement. See how our emotions kick in and say, that's not fair, that's not right, something's wrong with it. Number 7. Which truth table matches the following statements? Oh, see number 7 on page 175? See that truth table there? Okay, what we have to do is make a truth table. So we put P and Q. And we go true and true, true and false, false and true, false and false. So what's not P? Everybody see where they get that? Everybody see where they're getting that? You look at the P column, and if P is true, true, false, false, what's not P? True becomes false, true becomes false, false becomes true, false becomes true. Okay? We got that one? Now, what's if P then Q? What's the truth value here? Do you have in your notes the chart for the truth value of if then? When P and Q are true, this is what? True. When P is true and Q is false, this is false. When P is false and T is true, this is true. That's right. Check your notes. When this is false and this is false, this is true. Everybody have that? Do you need to write yourself a note? I'm not going to like this one, but I'm going to do it because that's the way you do capital L logic. Let's do the next one. What about and? True and true is what? True. You go, I don't know now. Messing with my head. See, that's why you look at your notes. True and false is false. False and true is, and false is, or. True and true is, true and false is, false and true is, and false is. Does everyone see where we're getting this information? If there's one of them you don't understand, let's talk about it, because you have to be able to do this on Monday. Then what's the last one here?
Only if.
Only if. Now, here's what that says. P is true only if Q is true, or P is true if Q is true, and Q is true if P is true. See how it goes both ways. So that would be what?
True.
True. Agreed? P is true if Q is false. That's false. If P, then if true, then false. That's false. We don't have to go any further, do we? If false, then true. Oh, that's true, isn't it? But what about the other direction?
No.
If true, then false. So that one's false. Everybody follow that? Because we're going both ways with this arrow here. The last one, if false, then false. That's true. So if false, then false. That's also true. So what's the truth value for if and only if? TFFT. Now, okay, look at the columns there. Column A is what?
Is the
TFFT. Which one of these is column A?
if and only if.
So this is A. Everybody see how I do this? This is how you'll pick the choices on the test. What's the next column? B, TFFF.
E and Q.
That would be and. Everybody follow what's going on? Look at Column C, FFTT.
Not P.
That's C. And then what's D, TFTT? If then.
Yeah.
And then what's the last one? TTTF.
Or.
And that's E. Everybody follow how that works? Got a headache, huh? And we're only halfway through the test. That's no good, is it? Well, let's keep moving and see what happens. Number 8. What am I supposed to do for number 8? Construct a truth table. So when I do that, I put P and Q. And then I write what? True and true. True and false. False and true. And false and false. Now, what's or? Looking at the first parentheses, what's or? True or true is true. True or false is true. False or true is true. And false or false is false. Everybody understand that? Then we go look at the other parentheses. Except now they're messing with us. P is, see what P is? P is true, true, false, false. So what would not P be?
False, false, true, true.
False, false. Whoops, make them, spread them out here. False, false, true, true. What would, if Q is true, false, what would not Q be?
False, true, false, true.
False, true, false, true. Now we're looking at or. What's false or false? What? Or. What's false or false?
False.
False. What's false or true?
True.
True.
What's true or false?
True.
What's true or true?
True.
So now we're doing this thing in the middle, which means we're looking at these two and saying what goes in here. Everybody follow that? So we're looking at, we're looking at, let's see, true and false. So true and false is what? False. True and true is what?
True.
True. True and true is,
True.
and false and true is. Then here's what will happen. On the test, it'll have like choices A, B, C, and D. And then it'll have these letters. And which set of letters are you looking for? F, T, T, F. And you say, that's the answer. You follow me? You're going to look at all of them and say, which one matches this column right here? And if you make a mistake, does the guy who wrote the test know what kind of mistakes people make?
Probably.
And then he's generated the answer for that one, and that's one of the choices. That's disgusting. Not only do I have to know how to do this, I have to do it without making a mistake. That's why I give you a chance to correct your test. Because nobody is perfect. All of us make mistakes. Number 9. Construct a truth table for P or Q. If P or Q, then not P. So I put P and Q out here again. And I go true and true. True and false. False and true. And false and false. What's P or Q? True or true would be what? True. True or false would be true. False or true would be, and false or false would be, and not, okay, here's P, true, true, false, false. So what's not P? False, true, false, true. Now I'm doing if then. Yes?
Wouldn't it be false, false, true, true, if it's P?
Oh, P. Yeah, okay. See, I'm looking at Q. You're right. It's not P. It's not P. So that would be false. Caught me making a mistake. Thank you. False, false, true, true. Why did I look at the Q column? Oh, I know why. Because it has if this, then this. And since this is the second thing, what's the second thing over here? See how our minds just mess with us? So now I'm doing if then. If true, then false. What is that? False, right? You have your if then chart in front of you? If true, then false is false. If true, then false is false. If true, then true is true. If false, then true is, look at your chart. What? What's your chart say? True. I don't believe it. I don't like it. I just do it. And maybe write yourself a note. I will not like doing this. It will bother me. Number 10. And then, of course, for the answer key, when you look at the choices on the test, it'll be you're looking for FFTT. But they'll be written sideways, I think. Number 10. Which of the following statements is equivalent? Okay, so here's P and here's Q. True, 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 false, false, true, false, false. Not P would be false, false, true, true. Q is true, false, true, false. So what does that make or? False or true would be what? True. False or false would be?
False.
True or true would be? And true or false would be? So here's the truth value for this one. Now what's the truth value here? Okay, first it's not P, so that would be true, true, false, false would become false, false, true, true. Then not Q, here's Q, true, false, not Q would be false, true, false, true. And false is what? False. False and true is what? Look at your chart. What's false and true? False. What's true and false? False. What's true and true? True. Everybody see that? Yes.
If true and false is false, then why is the bottom one on not B and B, Q, true?
Over here,
Yeah.
this is or, and this is and. Or and have different truth values, don't they? Or says either one can be true, and says they both have to be true. So now let's do this one. P is true, true, false, false. Not Q is false, true, false, true. And would be true and false would be false. True and true would be true. False and false would be false. And false and true would be false. So that all there is? Whoops. Don't need to do that. Oh, I didn't finish it. This is the truth value for this statement. What's the truth value out here where I negate it? If it's false here, what would it be out here? True. If it's true here, what would it be out here?
False.
If it's false here, it would be
True.
and false here would be.
True.
Does this one match this one?
Yes.
So those are the two that have the same truth value. What am I doing here? Number 11. Under which condition is the following statement true? When is Sally is naturally beautiful, or Sally knows how to use makeup, when is that statement true? Okay, when is an or statement true? For or, what's the truth value?
When either one is true.
When either one is true, or what's the other one? Or when both are true. So, when would this statement be true? When Sally is what? Naturally beautiful? Or when Sally knows how to use makeup? Or when Sally is beautiful and she knows how to use makeup? In other words, the correct answer would be, it can be this one, or this one. If you only say this one, you've forgotten the other two. So you have to make sure you include all three options because you're looking at or. Number 12. Is this statement true or false? It's an if-then statement. When is if-then true? When is if-then true?
As long as the first one's true and the second one's not false, then.
When the first one's true and the second one's true. Okay, is 2 plus 2 3? So that's false. So is 2 times 3 6?
No.
You wrote it down wrong.
But yeah.
It's different in the book.
Both.
It is?
Yeah. It's
What's it
5.
say? 2 plus 2 is 5? Oh. 2 plus 2 is 5. Is that true?
No.
Is 2 times 3 6?
Yes.
That's true. So look at your chart for if-then. False and false is what?
Don't you mean true?
False? Oh, pardon me. You're right. False and true is what on the if-then chart? True. Is this statement true or false? It's a true statement because it's an if-then statement that satisfies the truth value for if-then. And the key to that is looking at your chart. When is if-then true? And it's true when they're both true. And it's also true when the first one's false and the second one's true. It's also true when the first one's false and the second one's false. Number 13. Skip it and go to number 14. Number 14. Write the following. The converse. Do you have your notes for converse, inverse, and contrapositive? So, what's the here's if P, then Q. What's the converse?
Q then P.
If Q, then P. What's the inverse? If not P, then not Q. What's the contrapositive? If not Q, then not P. So now all I have to do come here and say, okay, here's if, and then this is P, then Q. Everybody follow that? I just take my sentence and I label the parts, P and Q, to match what I have written here. If P, then Q. If P, then Q. What's the converse? If Q, then P. So what would it be in words? If you make it again, then you made a what? Golf score of 62. You go, that doesn't make any sense. Doesn't have to make sense. It's the converse of this statement. What's the inverse of this statement? If you what? Don't make a golf score of 62, then what? You won't make it again. That doesn't make any sense either, but that's still the inverse. That's what they want you to do, is show them the inverse. And what's the last thing? The contrapositive, which says what? If you don't where'd it go? If you don't Q, if you don't make it again, then you didn't make a golf score of 62. That's the contrapositive of this original statement. And none of those sentences in real life make a lot of sense. But it's not trying to make sense out of this. It's knowing what the converse, the inverse, and the contrapositive is, and then just giving it back to us. If the test questions made sense and you could think them out in small L logic like you use every day, you're not demonstrating on the test that you know capital L logic. So they naturally put things on there that don't make a lot of sense. And if something on there makes a lot of sense, it could be that they're trying to trick you. So watch out for it. Number 15. What does 15 say? Let P be you get overtime pay, and M is you work more than 40 hours a week. And what do they want me to do? Symbolize the following statements. So here's what A says. If you work more than 40 hours a week, then you get overtime pay. What's work more than 40 hours a week? If M, then what? P. Everybody follow that, where I'm getting my letters? So what do I write out here for symbolic language? M, arrow, P. B, you get overtime pay, that's what? P, only if you work more than 40 hours a week. Do you have in your notes there, do you have, what page is that on? Do you have your notes for only if? Do you have your chart for what does only if translate into? It's on page 139. What does only if translate into? Page 139 says P only if Q is equivalent to if P then Q. So what do I write over here? If P then M. Everybody follow that? C, you get overtime pay if and only if. What's the symbol for if and only if? Arrows in both directions. And what goes over here? What you get overtime pay? P. And what goes over here? M. Okay? Good. Number 16. 16 says B is you get a bank loan. C is you have a good credit rating. Symbolize the following. It is necessary for what? Getting a bank loan. No, it is necessary for yeah, that's right. It's necessary for getting a bank loan to what? Where does this go? Having good credit. Having good credit rating is necessary for getting a bank loan. Isn't that what the sentence is saying? Do you have your chart for is necessary? Q is necessary for P. So is equivalent to if P, then Q. So P is for it. Q is it having good credit. So this would be if P, no, if B, sorry about that. If B, then C. That's the way you translate is necessary. Check that. Which one is that? 16A. You get it right? Check it over there in the answer key to see. 16B. You have a good credit rating. Having a good credit rating is sufficient for getting a bank loan. From page 139, what is sufficient? P is sufficient for Q. Is equivalent to if P, then Q. So P would be having good credit, so this would end up being if C, then B. And number 6, a necessary and sufficient condition. Is that the arrow going both ways? So you just put an arrow both ways and put, what are the two symbols? B on one side and C on the other. Wouldn't matter, it says the same thing either way. Skip 17, 18, 19, and 20 and go to 21. Use a truth table to check the validity of the argument in problem 19. Here's problem 19. All students study hard. John is not a student. John does not study hard. So here's, when you say all students study hard, that's if you're a student, then you study hard. Remember that? That's how you go from all to if then. If you're a student, then you study hard. John is not a student. That would be right here. Not S. This is premise 1. This is premise 2. And this is our conclusion. John does not study hard. Not H. Here's S and H. True and true. True and false. False and true. False and false. What's if then? True and true is what? True. True and false is false. False and true is true. False and false is true. Not S. S is true, true, false, false. So not S would be
False, false, true, true.
false, false, true, true. Not H. H is true, false, true, false. Not H would be
False, true, false, true.
false, true, false, true. Now we're going to check for validity. So we look for, we cross out this one because it's true and false. False and false. Ah, here we go. True and true. Whoops, F. And then true and true and true. So is this a valid argument?
No.
Because every place the two premises are true, the conclusion has to be true. So it's only true half the time, so this is invalid. Follow that one? Let's do number 23. Jump down to number 23. Well, maybe let's do, yes.
But
Let's do 22.
we still have to do all of these on our own, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even though I'm doing them here, you still have to do them and turn them in for homework if you want credit for the homework. Okay, let's go ahead and do it. No loafers work hard. So if you're a loafer, then you don't work hard. Sally does not work hard, not H. And Sally is a loafer. That's the conclusion. L. Then you do the same thing here. You do your truth table and draw your lines and find where this is premise 1, premise 2, and walk through the same process we did for the last one. Okay? I'll leave that one, and if somebody wants me to come back to it, we're going to do the last one here, because this is the last problem. And if you want me to go back and finish that one before that, just stay after and I'll help you, because we need to get out of here. So 23 says, what does 23 say? If you win the race, see that if then? If you win the race, then you are a good runner. So that's premise 1. If you win the race, then you're a good runner. Premise 2, you win the race. That's W. Everybody follow that? Premise 3, you are a good runner. I mean, conclusion, sorry. So that's your conclusion. You're a good runner. W and G, true and true, true and false, false and true, false and false. So, if then, that's true, that's false, that's true, and that's true. W, true, true, false, false. G, true, false, true, false. Everyone see where I'm getting my information? If you don't, stick around. We'll have time to talk about it, but I need to get people out of here so we can finish this class in an hour. Okay, so now I come back here and go, here's true and true, and this is true. Here's false and true, so I mark it out. Here's true and false, here's true and false. So what does that make this statement?
Valid.
Valid. And that's the last question on the test, I think. Sure enough.
Do you want us to end our homework at 23?
Yes, stop your homework at 23. And I'll leave this on. I think I will, if I can turn it off over here.
Okay.
And then you can, because it's not due until.
I'll have to turn it off and turn it back on, because it doesn't want to let me turn off the tape.